Okay, design students, in this video we're going to look at using the shape tools rather than the line tools like the previous video. Here you can see this object that I've made is made up of lines, but I can't do anything with the inside of it, and it's not defined as a complete shape. So I'm going to take my selection tool here and select all my objects, press delete on my keyboard. I'm going to go ahead and start with the rectangle tool, which we can see here has R as its hotkey. So with the rectangle tool, much like the line tool, I click and drag, and it creates a shape. Here, this completed shape also by default fills with a color. Now, when creating using the rectangle tool, just like the line tool, I can hold Shift, and if I do, it forces it to be a square, because it's forcing me to go in this like perfect diagonal here. I can also hold Alt just like the line tool, and it forces me to create it from the center. And of course I can hold both at the same time to create a square from the center. You can make edits to existing shapes like these rectangles by just grabbing and stretching, or grabbing at the corner, or grabbing on this little handhold here to rotate. If you're familiar with PowerPoint, this should be pretty familiar to you. In our Details panel on the right side, you can see we have this Appearance section. Specifically here, I want to bring your eyes to the Corner section here, where you can see I have sharp corners by default, but as I drag this up, it curves these corners in. The official word for this is a fillet, but it chops the edge and gives me this nice round corner. And you can see I can do it on other objects as well. Now, by default here we have a fill, which is something new, and I can change the color of the inside of my shape. But if I want to have an outline like I did with the line tool, I go here to where the border was, and I click this plus sign to add a border. And now I have this black outline around my shape. Just like with lines, I can change how much line there is. Notice by default, as I increase the size of this outline, it is staying within the shape. If we go into our border settings, these right side ones now matter that we have a shape. The position sections change where that edge is. Center is what the default usually is in Adobe Illustrator, where it overlaps both sides of the shape. And here I can also click outside so the line stays outside of my shape. You can still add things like arrows to your shape, but because of the shape being closed, you can see here that it only appears at a random point of creation and that it is below my fill. In addition, you can grab the opacity of something. Here I can make the opacity of the fill empty, so now I can see both sides of this arrow. And you can also see that now that there is no opacity on the inside, if I place this object over another, it will show through. Moving on to our next shape is the ellipse tool. The hotkey is E on your keyboard. And much like the rectangle tool, it creates from the side. I can hold Shift to make it a perfect circle, and I can hold Alt to make it create from the center of my point. This follows the same rules with borders as a rectangle is, and in fact, as all shapes do. And you see at my Appearance tab, I have some other options this time. I have how much of the angle of the circle there is, and I have some options about open, closed, and pi. I'm going to make this color here a little more noticeable, and we'll see what these do. As I change my angle here, it will open the circle up. As I change the other one, it controls how it connects back. Open makes it so that it's just an arc and the fill fills between it. Closed connects as I move these around. and pi connects to the center to give us this Pac-Man or pie chart-like result. Our next shape is the polygon tool. Again, follows the same rules as the rectangle, except by default, it does create from the center. I am not holding Alt right now. Shift doesn't have any strong control as there are lots of edges. But my appearance tool controls stuff like how many points this polygon has. I still have the same corner controls that I did on rectangle. The next shape is the triangle tool, which is basically just a hotkey to a 3-size polygon. Notice I can still make it a more complicated polygon. The last tool is the star tool. Our appearance choices give us how many extra points it has, as well as how far the points go in and out of the shape. And as usual, we have corner options that affect both sides of the corner. When you have lots of shapes like this, you can see they overlap each other on my Layers tab on the left. If I want this polygon to be in front, I can pull it to the front of the layer to change the order. And the last thing is when moving shapes around, once the shape is already selected, I can still use Shift. Now if I'm holding a shape and I hold Shift, it forces me to only move up and down or left and right, or on this perfect 45 diagonal. You also notice I'm getting lots of guides that are smart guides to help me with lining objects up. But the most important thing is if a shape already exists and you hold Alt while moving it, instead of moving from the center, it makes you a cloned copy of that object. Again, you hold Alt, click, and drag to make another. These are the basics of the shape tools in Gravit Designer.